Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for your briefing there today on the various issues, and certainly I welcome the fact that the class size is to be reduced again. I think I know as a previous teacher that how important it is in order to meet the children's needs and various abilities that you have in a classroom. You cannot teach where there's a crowded classroom, and you cannot teach effectively. So certainly this is very, very welcome. I also welcome the fact that, you know, the Free School Books initiative, I think it's a great initiative and certainly something that I would have called for also in the past. And indeed the capital investment in school buildings of 4.4 billion is wholeheartedly welcome, and certainly they're the positives. But I do want to ask you again about reinstating the Education Disadvantage Committee. That was a fantastic committee which did great work in terms of initiating the DESH. All of that was initiated through the Education Disadvantage Committee. Has there been any discussions around reinstating that committee, which advised on policy and, as I said, which did fantastic work and was good value for money also in terms of the cost? And just for some final points then, in terms of capital investment, and I understand 860 million is available for this year in terms of capital, and that's definitely welcome. But I'm very concerned over a school in my own constituency, St Brendan's Community School. It has DESH status, and I have emailed you about this. Glazing works were to be done in the school 3 years ago. They got commitments that it was to be done under summer work scheme last year. They have a serious problem now. Every time it rains, it's actually a hazard. The floors are wet, and you know, the school community are just at the end of their tether with the issue, and I just warmly welcome any assistance you can give in this regard to trying to resolve this problem. And the second issue in the same school being the fact that they were approved for an ASD unit 4 years ago, but still there has been no progress whatsoever on this project. And obviously there's a huge demand for places in ASD units, and I know certainly we spoke to representatives of the department who were here last week on that very issue. But really, you know, the school needs assistance on these issues. I have emailed the details, and I'd be very grateful for your assistance on that. In terms of the school transport, which was mentioned already by the previous speaker, I do understand the review is taking place, and I welcome that. There's been problems every year with this scheme, and it's certainly something that I have brought up with every education minister since I've been here. Every year you're guaranteed to get representations where there's problems, and the nearest school rule causing a lot of problems for communities and for families. So I'm just wondering, when will that review be published? And are you looking at the nearest school rule and making some provision around that, or removing that, because that does cause serious problems every year? And that's my contribution, Minister, in total. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And just to acknowledge, and I know you were a huge supporter of the whole DESH and what it can mean for a school, and you are correct. We've seen the single biggest expansion of DESH in the last while in this past year at a cost of 32 million. I want to say also that I'm very conscious that, you know, children at risk of education disadvantage, they don't all attend the DESH schools. So the body of work that we are engaged in presently is looking at maybe steps in relation to DESH and what we can do, and that there would be a series of measures, that not necessarily full DESH status, but there would be a progression of measures. I'd also, I suppose, like to reference the fact that we'll say the census data, as it becomes available to us, the HP index was the guiding index through which we evaluated the schools, but following the 2022 census now, the HP index will be updated, and I understand that will be available in Q3, and as a consequence of that updated information that will be available to us, it will determine the next stage of DESH, okay, and as I say, how we might well be able to progress steps within DESH, or indeed outside of DESH. The Education Disadvantage Committee, is my understanding, I think that was suspended more than 10 years ago. Yeah, so look, as I say, a significant body of work is ongoing within the department in relation to DESH projects and support for children and young people at risk of education disadvantage. There, I suppose in terms of that specific committee, as a consequence of it being suspended 10 years ago, new structures were put in place in the department, and in fairness, I think these new structures have delivered quite well and continue to deliver in terms of the area of education disadvantage. But look, I'm open to obviously looking at everything going forward again, as we will be looking at the census data in Q3, specifically in relation to St Brendan's and the two issues that you raised. You might just give me those details, person, and I will ensure that they're followed up for you. And just in terms of school transport, just to say that there are 3 phases in relation to it. The first 2 have been completed, and work on the 3rd phase is now underway. It is my expectation that we will complete it in the next short while. It will inform how we will address issues around school transport going forward. And as I've already referenced to Deputy O'Leary, there is a cross-departmental approach being taken here, and has been referenced by Deputy O'Leary, everything from, I suppose, climate and sustainability to improving access to greater numbers, and looking at everything in terms of distance and cost and all of that. So that will inform the school transport system going forward.
And in terms of the nearest school rule, is that being looked at?
Yeah, everything has been looked at in terms of eligibility. Yeah. And you would be aware that, for example, we did introduce traditionally it was the nearest school, and it did introduce a temporary alleviation measure at post-primary level, which meant that students were eligible from their nearest and then their second nearest school. Yeah. But all of that is being reviewed as part of the review.